Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen again. We are going to make cookies today. Cookies, people love them. Everyone loves them. I love cookies. So today we're going to make a raisin nut cookie. These are really easy to make, they're really popular, and they're really delicious. So let's get started. First, you're going to start with half a cup of butter. You can use margarine. I'm using butter. You can use whatever you have. Margarine is just fine. So we're going to cream this up with our blender. So we want our butter nice and creamy. I'm going to turn the volume down because this guy gets loud and he's really annoying. So let's cream this up. That's good enough. It only takes a few seconds. So to that, we are going to add our sugars. We're going to start with 3/4 of a cup of just plain sugar and 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. Remember to always pack your brown sugar unless a recipe indicates otherwise. So make sure that's firmly packed. Now we're going to cream together our sugars and our butter. Once it looks like that, we can add a couple more ingredients. We're going to start with 1 egg. Just one, you don't need more. 1 egg. Now we're going to cream that together. So when it looks like that, we're going to set aside the mixture and we are going to switch to a wooden spoon. After this, we'll switch to our hands, so get ready to get gooey in a minute. But for now, we are going to add, this is 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, not powder, baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Sometimes I get questions about adding salt to cookies. Yes, you do need that little bit of salt. I know it's not very much, but it is just enough to unify the flavors and to elevate your cookie. So if you leave out the salt, your cookies will be kind of flat and boring. So I know it's not very much salt. You don't need a lot. You just need a little hint of salt just to kind of jazz up your cookie. So don't skip the salt. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to add, excuse me, we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of flour, just regular flour. Give that a mix. There we go. It doesn't have to be fully incorporated. We're going to use our hands in a minute, just kind of get it started. Now we're going to add 1.5 cups of rolled oats, not quick oats. You do not want quick oats. Okay, kind of get that going. Now at this point, if you have any jewelry on your hands, I always wear my ring, but you're going to want to take that off because now we're going to switch to our hands. So if you have long sleeves, roll them up so your sleeves do not get in your dough. I've made that mistake, but I've seen a lot of people do that. But roll up your sleeves. It's just better. So now we're going to get our hands in there. Okay, let's get your hands in there. Incorporate all of those oats and the flour. You want a nice, consistent dough. So you want to get all of it squished in there. Just squish. There's no particular technique. You just get your hands in there and squish. It's not a big deal. Making cookies, a lot of times you're going to end up using your hands. I don't like the way a mixer does it. You can use your mixer. I abandon the mixer because I don't like how I can't feel the dough with the mixer. I like feeling the dough between my fingers. You can kind of tell when it's a good dough. And you don't want to over mix. There we go. Actually, that's really good. So then get that excess dough off your hands. Okay, now obviously we said these were raisin and nut, and I haven't had any raisins or nuts yet. So that's what we're going to do here. So, take a moment to rinse your hands. Just because you don't want them full of oats. So rinse those hands, and now you're going to add your raisins and your nuts. Now for your raisins, half a cup of raisins. Look, good enough. For your nuts, you can add any nut you like. You can add pecans, you can add walnuts, you could add peanuts, almonds, whatever you enjoy. I'm adding walnuts because they're my favorite. You'll see I use a lot of walnuts. And yes, this is a magic bullet container because my walnuts are basically walnut halves. They're not chopped up enough. And I don't feel like chopping them by hand. So a good thing to do is to get my little magic bullet, put the lid on, and we're just going to give these a couple of whirs just to chop them up a little bit. All right, again, I'm going to turn the volume down because this gets really loud. All right, so we're just going to do a few pulses, but I'll turn the volume down. Give it a bit of a shake. Looks good to me. I still want some chunks in there. I don't want it smooth. I still want some bigger chunks, but I don't want all of them bigger chunks. So we're just going to get that in there. Get that in there. Good for us. Get rid of that, don't need it. So now we're just going to mix the walnuts and the raisins in again with our hands. Just get them evenly distributed throughout your dough. You'll notice how I'm turning my bowl. It just makes it easier to incorporate the raisins if I turn the bowl, so I'm not constantly squishing the same direction. There we go. Get them in there. Once you're happy with the distribution of raisins and nuts in your dough, I'm not because that one's a clump. Here we go. That's better. Once you're happy with that, we are going to start scooping our dough onto our pan. So, I'm going to use my handy dandy little cookie scoop. I have a tablespoon and a teaspoon. We're going to do teaspoons today. So you're just going to take a rounded teaspoon, okay, kind of like that. Give it a little roll between your hands. That's why I didn't rinse my hands this time. Plop it on the pan, okay. So you have roughly the same amount. So you want a rounded teaspoonful. And you just want to put them in little balls. Don't flatten them, okay. Do not flatten these. If you flatten them, they won't be as poofy. We like poofy cookies. There we go. So just make sure your balls are roughly the same size. Pop them on here. You do not have to refrigerate this dough first, which is kind of nice. A lot of cookie doughs require refrigeration to set the dough. These ones don't, so just pop them on here. No big deal. Give them a roll, pop them on the pan. Now you're going to bake these for about 9 minutes. Remember, your oven is preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so you want to make sure your oven is hot enough. So after it's preheated, let the oven sit for about an extra 10 minutes. Because I know it says it's preheated, but you do need an extra few minutes just to make sure that you have reached that temperature in your oven. So that's why I preheated mine before I started the video. So 375 degrees Fahrenheit, you are going to bake these for 9 minutes. And again, you can bake them in batches. This dough takes refrigeration really well. So you can easily put this dough in an airtight container, leave it in your fridge for up to 5 days, and just bake as you would like. You could also freeze these little balls. So you could shape these balls, put them in your freezer, and then bake them later. Just remember to let them thaw before you bake them. So there we go. We are going to stick those in the oven without letting them roll all over the place. How about that? We're going to stick these in the oven for about 9 minutes. Then we will come back and take a look at them. All right, so our 9-minute timer just went off. I'm just going to grab the cookies. There we go. They actually look really delicious. Those are our Raisin Nut Cookies. Now we want to let them sit on the cookie sheet for 1 minute. Set a timer. Let them sit for 1 minute. We don't want to touch them because if you touch them too soon, they'll just fall apart. So you want to let them sit for 1 minute on that cookie sheet. Now, to remove them from your cookie sheet, you're going to need a spatula. Try to get something really, really thin. If your mom or your grandma has one of these, steal it. These are fantastic. See how thin and flexible these are? Perfect for getting under your cookies without tearing the bottoms. So if your mother, your grandmother, maybe your great-grandmother has one of these, get it. They don't make them quite like this anymore. This one's older than me. So yes, steal from your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents if they have one of these beautiful spatulas. So we're about 15 seconds away from being the full minute. That's when we want to take these off. If I do it now, they won't hold up quite as well. Have a cookie sheet, a cookie rack rather, off to the side so you can stick them on there to cool. Because you do not want to put them on a cutting board or anything like that. You want the air circulation. So our timer just went off. So we're going to scoop them one at a time. And I'm using a tiered cookie rack, which I love. You can use just regular cookie racks, that's fine. But I really enjoy the tiered ones. I just do. I think they're fantastic. So put your cookies on the rack. And then we're going to let them cool. You can eat them when they're warm, but you're going to want to let them sit at least 5 minutes on your cookie rack. But that's what we have. They are looking great. They're going to taste even better. Those are our Raisin Nut Cookies. I completely recommend them. And I really hope you make these at home because they will be a crowd pleaser as long as you like raisins, because you can use any nut you like. So thanks for joining us in the kitchen here today. Hopefully you will try these at home and hopefully your family will love them. We'll see you tomorrow.